Hello! I'm Christine, and I just finished reading Shadowhunter Academy. It's this series of novellas that Cassandra Clare released last year. Before I go any further, let me just lay down a disclaimer. I'm not gonna spoil Shadowhunter Academy until I say I'm gonna spoil Shadowhunter Academy. So don't worry, you could stay right now if you've read the Mortal Instruments series and if you've read the Infernal Devices series already. If you haven't read those two series, they're amazingly fantastic and you're missing out on so many amazing stories and characters. Haven't finished City of Heavenly Fire? Goodbye! You're gonna be spoiled if you stay here. Haven't finished the Infernal Devices? Goodbye! I'm so jealous that you haven't read it yet, because now you get to experience that for the first time and it's amazing, okay? But goodbye. So Shadowhunter Academy, said to be about Simon and his adventures at Shadowhunter Academy. I never finished the Bane Chronicles. It's sad, really. I only read the first 3 of the Bane Chronicles. I really have to go back and finish those now that I've read these. You have to read Shadowhunter Academy. It was like I just went outside and started digging for fun to make a sandcastle, and I struck oil! The things that Cassie put in this series under the guise that it was about Simon. I was reading this all on a plane, and I was just freaking out. I was freaking out. I had so many emotions. Now, what's gonna happen when you start these is you're not gonna feel this yet. Cause I read the first one, and I was like, eh. It felt the same as the first Bane Chronicles, where it was just like, I don't know if I want to read this. And then the second one is okay. And then you get to the third one, man. Shit gets real. And it just keeps happening. Conclusion. Without spoiling anything, you have to. You want to. I'm telling you, you want to read Shadowhunter Academy. If I haven't convinced you, okay? This next section, I'm gonna mildly spoil you why. Goodbye, people who just want to go read it and come back. Cassie uses Simon's adventures at Shadowhunter Academy as a device to show us other people's stories from Shadowhunter Academy all through time. You want to see these people's stories. One of which being the Circle. The Circle at Shadowhunter Academy. Yes, this is exactly what you're thinking. All of a sudden, we're back in 1899. James Herondale. James Herondale. James Herondale. If you don't know, James Herondale is one of the leads of the Last Hours trilogy that Cassie is also working on. And the son of Tessa and William Herondale, who we also get to see. My heart. I was reading these stories on a plane, crying and gasping and being emotional, and they're just novellas. But they're not just novellas. I can't imagine going into Lady Midnight without hearing these stories. Not even Lady Midnight, like just going on. You want it. I don't want to tell you anything else. Read them. Yeah, we learned about Simon and his friends, and it's wonderful. At first, it's like, I don't care about this new Simon. And then we love Simon again. And then you see Jace, and you see Izzy, and you see Clary, and you see everyone you want to see. You see these scenes that you wanted to see in City of Heavenly Fire that did not happen. You see things that set up for Lady Midnight. So many things. This should have been a mandatory book. When does it come out in paperback? Read it now. You don't want to wait for it to come out. So I read these all on my iPad. I read the first 2 on my last plane flight. Then I read the next 7 on this past trip to Orlando. I literally every day, walking from my hotel to Universal, was reading. I was walking. I took a half an hour read walk from my hotel to Universal because I couldn't stop reading this shit. Not shit, this glory. Like I've said in the past, I've read Magnus Bane and I haven't been thrilled with the story quality of the first 2, and then I got to the third one and I liked that one and I didn't keep going. Like once I kept going into this, it was just like I was reading another Shadowhunter book. That is all I can say without spoiling you. You need to read it! These are just novellas, but I have stuff I want to say, so I'm gonna go along through each one and do like a brief discussion book talk. You can stop when you get to a novella that you haven't read yet, or you can read all of them and then come back and watch all of this together. Bye, non-spoileries! Welcome to Shadowhunter Academy. Personally, I feel that this novella is the weakest of the series, and it's so deceiving to what the rest of these stories are gonna be like. I can't believe I didn't read these sooner, and you know why I didn't read these sooner? Because I read this one first. The sentences just seemed light and kind of generic for Simon. The problem was that Simon did not know how to pack like a badass. What constitutes packing like a badass? How can you pack like a badass? What do you not pack? You just leave with nothing. Look at me, I'm a badass. I have nothing to wear tomorrow. The word awesome is used excessively in this first chapter, and maybe it's because Simon can't remember other words. It didn't feel like a Santa Claire, but we get introduced to the idea of Shadowhunter Academy, which is kind of like the poor man's Hogwarts. I was not expecting it to be a rundown piece of shit building, but it is, because no one's used it for years. It's been shut down. It's a castle. One of the turrets is falling apart. It's crooked, but the students still live and walk in it. It is a hot mess. The food, I don't even know what's going on with the fucking food at Shadowhunter Academy. It's a running joke that every day is shit. How could every day it be so shit? Who is cooking in that kitchen? Is Izzy secretly head chef? How can tea? Why does the tea have bones in it? I don't know what's going on back there. We meet Simon's new roommate, George Lovelace, whose parents are distant relatives of Jessamine Lovelace. He's super nice, he's cute, he's Scottish, we like him. And then Izzy shows up at the institute. She's dealing with some really difficult crap right now. Her boyfriend doesn't remember being her boyfriend. Simon has turned into this complete idiot. Maybe this is also a big reason why I found it hard to keep moving forward, because we get more insight on what Simon is feeling right now, and he's feeling like he can't be around Jace or Clary or Izzy or Alec because he doesn't remember anything he's done with them. They're just strangers to him, and they look at him expecting him to be the friend that they've known, and he doesn't want to be around them because he doesn't like feeling like he let them down all the time. Oh, he's so stupid when it comes to Izzy. Izzy comes to the school, makes an announcement in front of the entire student body. This is my boyfriend. So if any of you think about trying to hurt him because he's a Monday, or may the angel have mercy on your soul, pursuing him romantically, I will hunt you down and I will crush you to powder. And then she whips around and leaves. And idiot Simon goes after her and tells her, Izzy, I'm not your boyfriend. I'm not that guy anymore. I don't even know that guy. So, can you stop? You are so stupid. We're following his journey to ascension. So if you read this and stopped, you need to keep going. The Lost Herondale. The Lost Herondale was a little more interesting than the previous one and felt a little more real than the first one. And what's going on in the school right now is that Shadowhunters are so desperate to find more Shadowhunters because so many of them died in these last two wars. They need to buff up their army. They're finding orphaned children who have lost their parents, who have nothing else, and being like, hey, you want to be a superhero? Come learn, and then we can let you drink from the Mortal Cup and maybe you'll become a Shadowhunter. It would appear that Shadowhunter Academy is just a 2-year program, at least right now it is. I don't know what it used to be like in the olden days, if it was more like high school. Back in the day, there was a Herondale. A demon convinced him that his wife was being murdered, so he left his fellow Shadowhunters to go save his wife. And that's considered the worst possible thing you can do, because those Shadowhunters ended up being killed because they were outnumbered. His wife was pregnant, and a demon drove him mad thinking that his pregnant wife was being murdered. And his pregnant wife is killed for that crime of leaving the Shadowhunters. And the warlock Katrina saves this woman's baby and raises him as her own. Right now, all we know about this baby is that his name was Tobias Herondale, and that he's another Herondale who just could have had babies and could have a line that Jace can find and befriend. We have to find him. I'm assuming we're going to find him in the future, but I'm not sure, because in another story, Magnus references this Tobias Herondale that Katrina raised, and he notes that there's a lot of pain there. And Katrina seems to have this eternal sadness about it. So I don't know what happened there. I'm thinking there's another Herondale running around out there. Novella number 3, The Whitechapel Fiend. This is where things start getting good. It's the first one that touched my heart. I cried in this novella. Jace comes to visit to check up on Simon and be a guest lecturer. And he had a really nice exchange with Simon where he said that he wished Simon remembered what had happened between them, because things were, and he doesn't say good, but things were good between them. And Simon takes the first step to making things right with Izzy. Simon has told her not once but twice that he's not her boyfriend. You don't tell Izzy you're not her boyfriend. Excuse me. Take a step back. You want to be her boyfriend. And Tessa shows up at the Institute as a guest lecturer, and it is beautiful. I am so excited. Simon tells Jace to go talk to Tessa about his family, and Tessa is going to take him and Clary on a tour of the Herondale house in Idris. Okay, now we're even. Go party in the Herondale house with your weird family. Oh, I plan to. Good night, Wiggles. Wiggles? Yeah, Wiggles, your nickname. It's what you always made us call you. I almost forgot your name was Simon. I'm so used to calling you Wiggles. Wiggles? What does that even mean? You never explain. As I said, good night, Wiggles. Then we jump to London, October 1888. And Tessa tells us the story of Jack the Ripper. And we get to see Tessa and Will and their new baby, James. And then the 4 adults have to go solve the mystery of Jack the Ripper, this creepy ass child demon who gets into the institute one night and hides the children, which scared the shit out of me. I thought this was something that was going to affect the children for the rest of their lives. It hid all the children up the chimneys, which is horrifying. But before we knew that, there's this scene where Tessa watches her 1-year-old James run into the fireplace and she has a panic attack, and I have a panic attack. I don't know if you read the Bane Chronicles. There's this one story called The Midnight Air that I don't remember so clearly. I reread the beginning of it, but it was upsetting me because I know how James was earlier on now because of these stories, and we don't know how he got to that point yet. He's a mess in The Midnight Air. But baby James runs into his fire. I thought that this maybe did something to him. But it didn't. It didn't. It was just the demon playing tricks on them. Jessamine comes out of the woodworks, ghost Jessamine, and she calls to the demon to distract it so that the other Shadowhunters can look for the children. And it really touched my heart that she's there taking care of them. And we really get a feel for the relationship that Will and Tessa had with Jem through this era where he was a silent brother. They called him Uncle Jem. Any excuse they could find to call a silent brother, they would invite him over. Sometimes after Cecily and Gabriel left, Tessa would sit with her hand in Jem's and Will sleeping against her shoulder, listening to the rain on the windows. And after that heartfelt story, we go back to Simon, as we always do in the Shadowhunter Chronicles. Simon goes back to his room to find Jace lurking around the door. Seriously, how long have you been lurking here? I wanted to talk to you alone. People will say we're in love. I've missed Simon Jace banter so hard.